Welcome to the podcast designed to fuel your success in selling technology solutions. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus, and this is Next Level Biz Tech. Welcome back to another episode in 2025. Hard to believe that we're already here. I remember 2025 used to sound so futuristic, James, when we were younger. But here we are. James Gordon on with us today, UCCX engineer at C3. Welcome on, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I appreciate the invite.
Hey, I know we're supposed to talk about CX and insights and all of that stuff, but you and I were both respectively up late last night watching a
Yeah.
really important game. One of us has maybe gone to school in the Notre Dame area, so may even be more attribution to that. That's not me. But hey, we're both diehard Notre Dame fans. Last night was exciting. Watching that Orange Bowl, I don't think I have any fingernails left. You and I were talking. I just want to call this out kind of before this improbable path, right? This is now a college football podcast apparently, but you want to share with me kind of what you were thinking, the underdog story, the improbable path, just what do you think about what's kind of happened this year?
Well, it's exciting to be going to the national championship. The last title was in '88. But I was thinking about something, that independency that Notre Dame has. That's always something that's looked at. And, there was a statement made by the Penn State coach at the beginning that everybody should be in a conference. And what's interesting about that is that Notre Dame would have had to run the table to show that the money that they generated from making the national championship, they could stand in that independent space. And what's so wild about that is they did that on the first time out. They didn't have to wait 10 years to make that argument. They made their claim yesterday. They seized the moment and they basically ran the table after one loss to prove a point that they can run this model of being independent and really be different than everybody else in college football. And that path, I think, is arguably a really difficult path to go.
100%. And I think there's always a parallel in this stuff, right? There's so many parallels here. I think that one of the coolest parallels that I've seen, we've both been fans, we've grown up with this, we've lived there. And I think the coolest thing to see is just watching Marcus Freeman come in, and it's just a true example of how leadership and really relating and understanding your people, how to motivate them, caring about them in a way that people have never cared about them before. And look what happens when you get a team together and you do something great. We're at seventh string players. I don't know where they're finding these guys from, but the whole next man up mentality, man. I mean, it's just been so cool to see, right?
Yeah.
The depth and just uniting what he's been able to do there.
It's inspiring. I mean, I think it transcends into other parts of our life, but when you see that, you just want somebody to win more and more, not only in the game, but in life. So, yes, it was awesome to watch that.
Love it. All right. Well, we're going to be rooting for a big win, of course. So hey, we'll circle back. Maybe we'll come back and record another episode and talk about when Notre
That'd
Dame
be
wins,
awesome.
not if. But
There
all
you
right,
go.
I guess we got to get into it. So today we're talking about the pulse of CX, real time insights that matter. So kind of before we talk about your take on this, walk us through just a little bit, you kind of at a personal level, right? What sparked your interest in the field? What's your career path been? Any kind of weird twists? Have you always been destined for this, or how'd you get here?
Oh, that's a interesting path. Well, I originally I was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin, and in '97 I started my undergrad at Notre Dame, which brought me to the Indiana area. And up until about 2016, I believe, I was located in South Bend. I worked there. I was in network engineering roles. I could, build a network from ground up back in the physical days, which are still here. But as we traverse into the cloud world, all of that older kind of stuff that I learned, it really helps me as a good knowledge base. But, on the ground, learning all different parts of the tech stack, I would definitely say before I came to Indianapolis in 2016 to work for Interactive Intelligence, I had a pretty good base, and around that time I was teaching college courses. So I saw a job posting for a technical consultant on a telephony platform and didn't know really at the time what that terminology was. I drove to Indianapolis, interviewed, and moved to Indianapolis that same year, and have been working in kind of that ecosystem. So I was an interactive in Genesis, for about 10 or 12 years. And after that, joined C3 when I basically took my expertise and all the things that I knew and really kind of jumped into the channel aspect of pre-sales engineering sales. So
Love it, love it. Yeah, and I think there's such value in, hey, I think my path's going to go this way. You just learn so much along the way of, strife and, okay, maybe I like
yeah,
this, maybe I don't like this, right? We never know, we're so brilliant 10 or 15 years later, right? But kind of that windiness of the path is just so valuable. We hear it over and over again from people, episode
yeah.
after episode.
And I think I got my dates off. It was 2018, and I started at Interactive. And over that course, I forget the exact date when Genesis acquired them, but yeah, that's been a tremendous path for not only for my family but myself and my time there. Technical consultant, product manager, um, building technical curriculum and things like that for the engineers to learn the platform and just going from a premise system into the conception of Genesis Cloud and seeing all the early days of that. It really was a gift at the time. I didn't know it, but seeing where the world is going, I'm glad I had not a bird's eye view, but up close to see how things were happening.
Love it. All right, let's talk a little bit about C3. For anybody that's not familiar, we've had Matthew Toth on, we've had Joe Mock on, but rehash us a little bit. How do you want to describe C3's approach as a partner kind of to the market, right? So much capability. How do you talk about that value prop?
Wow. I just want to start by saying C3, the word real comes to mind if I wanted to start with an adjective, right? They're real people looking to create real relationships with, people in the business world that have real problems where they need that consulting or that expert advising, not for just, a transactional to fix this one thing that's giving me an issue, but to be there and build a relationship to help you with your solutions going forward. And also, in the vein of that, for us to be accountable for the advising that we give you, because I thoroughly believe that trusted advisor title in this space is going to continue to evolve. But I also think that, people have to stand behind the advising that they have, and that has to stand the test of time, especially in this cloud world, with it being so new and so many uncovered stones.
Yeah, I know we're also talking about this too. We feel like some of these things that maybe we've been doing them 5, we've been doing them 10 years. Oh my gosh, it feels like, wow, we've been doing this so long. Like, what's the next thing? And you flash back and you just look at how many customers still need help and how many people are still not even on step one of whatever it is, right? We're talking about, CX, but I mean, the story remains the same for cloud and security and kind of that list goes on. You just realize the enormity of the country, of the world, when you start to think about, wow, there's still so much opportunity out there.
Yeah. And they don't see it immediately. They only see it in the invoice. And then they start asking questions and then they start walking it back. And then it's like, wait a minute. You have somebody come in and in a very nice way say, there's probably multiple areas that the businesses fell asleep and that we have this bell curve of a cloud world. You're really a lot of steps behind. You may be spending more money and getting less of an outcome than if you just evaluated that and really made the changes that you need.
Agree. Okay, so let's talk about. I mean, we talk about this technology changes so quick. It just, I don't know. It just seems to change faster and faster, right? Especially kind of where we're at now with the paradigms. But how, if you think about from a UCCC, this kind of idea of this pulse and what's been going on, how has your role? Have you seen your role change, or how has this rise in kind of the demand for these advanced solutions change what you've had to do in your role?
Um, I think what's ending up happening in my role is that you have to pay attention to the daily occurrences. You have to watch the trends, and we have to do this by community. Though we're all in a competitive space, there are more than enough solutions out there for people to reach their bottom lines. But this almost has to be a co-op. opportunity to create these partnerships and these relationships and really kind of be that glue in between to make sure that we're advising correctly with things being so new. So I would say I probably spend more time reading and searching and trying to find the source of truth for things that are actively being discussed, where I want to be somebody at that table to be part of those conversations to come up with those answers that we don't know. So I would say maybe that's the biggest thing. I can't historically go look at things that others have defined and they stay still so long that it makes sense. I have to go find my own information and kind of decipher what that means today.
So let's go back to this hard won wisdom thing that we talk about on the show. So if you look back, over the past decade or so, what's a really hard lesson that you've learned? Maybe something from experience, something you got challenged on, a failure, a mentor, whatever you want to pick from.
Ah, man, I think I think the biggest lesson that has helped me out is accountability. I know that, it's weird. The more you read, the more you see that. But in the spirit of accountability and taking ownership of yourself, you allow yourself to, see maybe potential shortcomings from an individual level that really may be impacting your ability to be your best version of yourself, to give that to your customers. So I take extreme ownership and extreme accountability in the space of being prepared, being ready to go, and owning what my responsibility is first. And once I do that, when I come to the table and I'm ready to kind of have these conversations, I can start to build that trust that anytime they see my name or they see C3 being represented, they have somebody coming with their A game, because this person takes extreme accountability and is not afraid that if they make a mistake, to speak to it and not live in successes, because again, this thing is moving so fast. We have to take accountability because there's going to be error. There are going to be errors made, but I think that that's my biggest takeaway. And I see accountability missed in so much discovery when we're trying to solve problems. And I'm like, you know, in the spirit of that, you can really see how accountability affects so many parts of the ecosystem of what you do.
I love that call out, and it reminds me of a couple things. If you're not a Notre Dame fan, this might not be the episode that you get the most excited about, but there is a reference here. There's parallels all over. Maybe I'm just super excited about the win last night, but there's a parallel, and I'm going to come back to a Riley Leonard thing that he said last night. But I think we're raised and we're taught, and it's maybe not talked about as much, that failure is okay. And so there's this idea of, oh my gosh, I get this job, I've got to perform. If I fail, it's so bad. And, as we get immersed into tech more and more, you realize, wow, and culturally at the companies that we're at, failure is okay. You
Yes.
have to be innovating, you have to be trying, you have to be figuring it out. And you know what? It's to your point, like we're going to make mistakes. Now we hope we learn. Maybe we learn the first time. Maybe we don't learn the first time. But we hope you learn by the second or third time and go, how do we get better on that? And this is something for me that I've learned, as the years have gone on. But I would argue at the age of 18 through 22, or I guess if you're a ninth year college football player, maybe you could be 37. So maybe this age range goes up, but. To hear it last night, I forget her name. She's the one that's kind of done a lot of the post-game reporting and in sideline reporting. But she said something to Riley Leonard, and okay, I don't know what he is, maybe 22 or something like that, 21. But she says, yeah, how do you do it over and over again? You're in the clutch. You always seem to be the guy that makes the plays, and you see this kind of look on his face, like, And he said, well, I mean, I wasn't tonight, because I was the one that put us in that spot that got us right till the very end and kind of didn't deliver. It was all these guys, that were able to help and were able to surround, right? And I think you build a bond with somebody and you believe in somebody so much when you see that you learn so much about somebody when they speak like that, because you don't know people think like that. You don't know if they speak like that, right? So I love that. I love that call out on your part.
Well, I'll tell you what, that kind of what C3 embodies, whether it's Matthew, Taylor, Abby, Joe, or Colin that are part of our leadership team, they they do that first. So they make it easy for the culture to understand that accepting failure is the most critical part of understanding your errors, to learn from them. And I think that's a very critical thing that we do as a company. We learn and we grow together. We have sessions where we read books as a company together. We try to grow our philosophies that work for C3, but not just in a business process, but in an overall personal and professional development way. But what you said, yes, 1000%. We learn more in our failures. We love successes, we call them out, and those are great to look at. But you don't gain much from those. You gain more from the failures that you learn what you did. And in the spirit of accountability, my goodness, you can do so many great things out of just acceptance, you know.
Love it. All right, let's come back into kind of this pulse, and maybe let's look at kind of where CX is today. So you've got, of course, you got AI out there kind of redefining this whole tech landscape, the paradigm shift. You got CX evolving rapidly. So if you look at it right now, what are the things that you want to share that you think kind of some of these the top things customers are looking for, and maybe what are they trying to avoid right now?
Sure. I think we still have the old, not they're not old use cases, but there's a lot of UC seats out there that need some, diverse new tech brought there, whether it be premise, or an older platform that's been retired. That all still very much sits out there, and some antiquated contact center solutions that are in place that haven't had the R&D in them that they deserve. But if we step into the organizations that have been trying to plug monies or find solutions and be in the spirit of growing things, if we look at the conversation from the point of AI, AI has dominated the airwaves, but what really people are looking for are the predictive analytics, the better routing options, a more improved customer experience, where we all know the voice channel supposedly is dying, but I just think it's a very expensive channel and it should be protected and it should have your most important business going to it and then bring it into those digital channels that allow users to self-serve and optimize your business. I think a lot of companies want to get there. They just don't know how to get past all of the maybe tech stack issues that they have to bring that to future state. But I don't think they need to go through an overall, revamp of their network to start solving some of these business problems. So I definitely believe predictive analytics, the predictive routing, which are some themes you heard predominant in 24, they're going to continue in 25 as newer companies embrace them and say, hey, I don't know why we waited so long to do this. Because, now that we stepped into the cloud world, we're understanding that contact center metrics are not the only things that drive the business. And in the world of APIs and being able to see the whole data, now you're pulling in other business units and you can see the whole transparency of the business. And I think that's where senior leaderships are going towards because they can solve
Yeah,
the whole company's problems and not just the contact center focused on.
agree. Let's push this maybe into an example. Walk us through a kind of deal, an opportunity you went through, the challenges the customer was facing, what the tech stack looked like, and how did you kind of come in and transform that?
A recent deal around a banking vertical, believe it or not, you have these they have these old Mitel systems or something in the vein of that. And everybody who's listening who might, have to walk back one of those systems, you hear all the pain points in discovery. We can't do this type of transferring. We lose insights on the data. We just don't have anything today that lets us know what's going on. Um, Early on in the discovery, I kind of felt that they would love any contact center solution that they would get, but that wasn't the focus of it. It was also looking for banking core solutions that are integrating to bring those digital channels and those better customer experiences that those banking industries are recognizing. Hey, we have older populations moving out and we have newer ones coming in that prefer the digital engagements. And we really need to get ahead of this customer experience. So in that engagement with that customer, they're moving into a new banking core. They selected a new platform, and believe it or not, it was from a new player in that space. I'll shout out Talkdesk and Glia because they really have dedicated themselves to that financial
Yeah.
vertical, focusing on that. So when we bring this information to them and show them everything that the market has been developing for them, they're like, "Oh my God, how come we are not doing this right now?" And it's like they're so ready to get to that solution because now they can see what's happening. They can transfer. And they can do so many baseline things that they're happy, but the appetite to digest the cloud capabilities are happening so fast because they're like, okay, great. We're doing things that we should have been doing. They're embracing it and they just want more and more. You know how it is with internet speed. If you give them a gigabit speed, they're going to want three, four, and five. It just keeps going up. So the appetite to consume new cloud technologies to improve their CX experience, the transparency on the contact center system, and to be integrated better into their core applications or the banking core and those internet applications that they use, they are thinking forward because if they don't, they're not going to have those things in place in order to service the diverse customer base that is embracing more of a self-service bot engagement versus that voice channel. But I don't think you'll see voice channel go away. It's just going to be more protected because of the cost.
Yeah. Are you finding that the things that capture? I want to talk about prospects capturing a prospect's attention and kind of getting an opportunity, getting that prospect to really buy in. Are you finding that they have to be shown vendors that have examples in their verticals already? Does that seal the deal? Does that help move it along? Like what's the level of influence that you feel that's able to help you?
Um, Initially, I would think that, or initially, I thought that that whole API conversation, because that is overly used in our industry. I'll say that right now. But I would say most certainly you can't bring a EHR like a medical system like Epic or Cerner
Mhm.
and say I can integrate into yours just like I can that. The companies out here that want to seize those moments, and that's why I called out Talk Desk and Glia, they seized the moment and dedicated themselves to two specific verticals. So now they're bringing all the use cases where if a customer says, yes, but what about my system? And they can say, yes, we have an example for that. And they're bringing those real live use cases because customers trust a reference example of something that's working versus, yeah, we can do that over here. One CRM, one EHR, they're all the same. And that's simply not true. So, and I definitely would say that customers want to see the exact system that they're using, how it would work, and what that integration conversation looks like. And the appetite to know exactly what it is, yes, that's heating up. But there's a second part of that conversation too that I've noticed, Josh, is that companies have to decide that are selling these solutions how much we're going to invest into building out these versus making the customer pay for it during the implementation phase. You get collateral from the opportunity that they bring to you because after it's closed, you can go say, now I have this example of this system that I can integrate into. So I think there needs to be more conversation either between the customer or the businesses out there looking at that implementation upfront investment and say, hey, maybe we need to have more on here. If there's a business problem plaguing them, maybe they're willing to spend the cost on the implementation, but we also have to see how we're benefiting from that as well and invest in that. So I think there needs to be more synergy on both sides because if you solve that business problem, they're happy as a customer, and you walk away with a use case that's going to pay you future dividends over and over and over because you have it in your portfolio now.
Yeah, and I mean the suppliers in theory are bought into that, right? Because we're likely solving a use case for somebody else that we can go solve this for tomorrow,
Yeah.
or the unique integration. I'm with you. There is so many integrations, but when saying API versus saying native integration checkbox, we've done it. There's a level, as somebody that's kind of built, and I get easy versus like, well, yeah, like it can be done. Like we should be able to do it. Like nobody wants to hear that. I think they
Right.
want to hear, to
I
your
think
point.
it's and I we got to give some love to the integrators out there or the
Yeah.
individuals that are trying to integrate these systems. They're taking it past just screen pops. They're trying to integrate UC channels into systems to utilize that channel as well as contact center seats that are exploiting the capabilities around what I mentioned earlier, predictive routing, responding to, patients. You think about a healthcare vertical. A lot of nurses live in EHR systems all day. They don't have time to jump out into a contact center solution to see all the stuff that's coming to
Yeah.
them. But if you integrate into their system properly, you now are linking the systems capabilities into something that is available today. They just don't understand that they're being plagued by day-to-day scenarios that they just have to stop and slow down and see how the business problem is really the biggest problem, not trying to put the tech in there to solve it.
Good. Kind of to go down a little bit of that same vein is you're trying to break through the noise, all the noise that a customer might be getting. If somebody come at them with this, they got this project, they got that thing, they got this technology. Any other kind of more high level secrets that you've seen be successful to capture our prospects' attention, or kind of on the flip side of that, also things that you go, oh my gosh, guys, don't do that.
Right. I think when we're defining our statement of work and when we're walking into that process, we really always try to come with what is your biggest business problems that you have that you're plagued to today? Because what happens is if you define those and you always come back to them, you get away from this idea that you just start to throw so many ideas that you think could solve the problems. But really, what we're looking at is phasing. People get excited about the possibility of solving the problems you defined, and they start bringing in more problems that they want you to solve, which is a good sign. But I think initially we do a very good job of defining what the key things are that are plaguing you today. Let's solve those and let's see what that means more. And we do a very good job of keeping centered to that and not letting, the path of what we're trying to solve for be deterred. Now we will collect notes and have that and revisit it and say, hey, we remember you said that this was giving you an issue in XYZ. Did what we solve fix that? Or were there more things highlighted that need addressing around what we're doing? So I hope that kind of answers that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really what we kind of do. And around these newer technologies, I'll say we had an opportunity with a customer where they were trying to make a decision. Do we do contact center or do we look at a point solution that could bring things in and do digital routing and all that? And it was more in the restaurant vertical. And there was a lot of conversations around, what to do. Do we do contact center? Do we hire people? Do we do all of this big upfront cost? Or do we look at this solution that could, move the needle? And what ended up happening is what I described happened. Oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. And at a point, we had to come right back to originally, what did we really start to discuss at the beginning was your biggest issues? Because they get so excited and you can lose track of where everybody is at and what they're trying to solve. But excitement is a good thing, but you kind of have to keep the guardrails on it.
Yeah, yeah, you got to rein it in.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think we've done a lot of those where it's like, okay, guys, we talked about a lot today. I just want to put a bow
Yeah,
on this. What we found seven things that you need. If you could, if you if it changed your life to have three of them done, what are those three? Cool. Let's focus on that. We'll take action on that. We'll come back. That kind of thing. Because
absolutely.
clearly you did a good job. Because those are what the old school sales things would teach you. They always be closing. All those things would be
Yeah,
those are buying questions. When people bring up price, those are buying questions. All of those things. I love it.
absolutely.
Okay, so final couple thoughts here is as other partners are listening to this, we've got people that maybe focus on security that have never jumped into this, or people in network that have gone into others areas but not this area. This is all about moving into different technology areas. So
Yeah.
what's your advice for partners that maybe want to strengthen their expertise in CX, get a little more understanding of some of these journeys and transformations so they can kind of stay on that curve?
Uh, the best advice I can give is you have to get out and start and create the conversations and be in the spaces where those conversations are happening. Um, as an example, in C3, we invite partners to come to a CX roundtable that our director of engineering put together to have these collaborated conversations. They're happening all over, but we all are competing, but we love to sharpen steel against steel and share these ideas that no, maybe you don't have a solution for it. A lot of our conversations around things nobody has solutions for or opportunities that we can help our partner community just as much as our partner community can help us. There are no silos in our eyes, and it's an opening, welcome, kind of invite. So we've started on our end to create those collaborated efforts. I know I've had discussions and I've had, we talked about EOS earlier. I had a couple rocks last year where I had strategic conversations over a couple quarters with, SEs from 5.9 and Genesis. And my goodness, they were conversations like this, but they were so beneficial. You know, Mariah with Genesis, and my goodness, not being in that ecosystem anymore, and being able to reach out to SCs and be able to have that coordinated effort is so valuable because we're all really on the same team trying to solve the same things.
Yeah, fair. All right, Mr. Gordon, final thoughts. So, future innovations, you think about kind of CX and beyond. What are innovations that you're kind of looking forward to or want to keep paying attention to?
Well, a lot of things that I heard last year were around the robotic, the buy-in of the self-service. That's the biggest thing. At the end of a demo, everybody that's putting these technologies out there, we did a lot of work with Core and Yellow and a lot of those different companies out there. Sorry if I forgot anybody in there that we did a lot of other business with as well. But in the spirit of that bot conversation and the self-serve and kind of that, deflection off that voice channel, I saw a lot of technology that was coming forth that, made it more human-like. That augmented experience where you can rely on that digital technology to feel more human-like. Well, I'm really excited about the behavioral model infusing into that because data sets and large language models tell you historically how to respond, but they're missing the behaviors that always come up that people complain about at the end of demos. It just didn't sound real. What they're really saying is it didn't have the behavior in there that I expected. So I believe that a lot of the behavioral models, along with the language models and the way that, that next step of where we're going, you're going to have a more augmented experience with the digital stuff. And along with agent assist and all the other stuff that the live agents are using, I believe that we're going to have more of a conversation around the segmentation of agents and how we categorize them. We have a lot of professional agents out there that have to protect their professional equity. And these technologies that we're bringing in that protect them from compliancy and things like that to protect those titles that they have. We have a lot of nurses, a lot of professionals that are entering the contact center system and they're agents. Are you giving them the proper tools to be successful and to protect their equity? And I think conversations need to start advancing, whether it's a BPO or it's a in-house resources. We have different groups of agents that need different resources. And if you're not giving that to them, you're creating a liability for yourself.
Love it. Well, my friend, that wraps us up. Always a pleasure to chat. Thanks for coming on and doing this. Awesome knowledge.
Absolutely.
So many nuggets here.
Absolutely. Anytime, Josh.
Awesome. All right, everybody, that wraps us up for today. As always, these episodes will drop out every Wednesday morning. So wherever you're coming in and listening from, Apple, Spotify, be sure to subscribe so that you get those as soon as they come out. So I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus. This has been the Pulse of CX with a little bit of Notre Dame Talk Radio sprinkled in. James Gordon, UC CX Engineer, C3. Until next time.
Next Level BizTech has been a production of Telarus Studio 19. Please visit Telarus.com for more information.